Good evening, I'm Cenk Uygur. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. The budget battle that almost shut down the government Friday night was just the undercard. This week, we begin the real fight over the debt ceiling and cuts that are not in the billions, but in the trillions. This is about the core governing philosophy. What do Democrats and Republicans think the government should and should not do? At stake in this battle, a government default, another financial crisis, and the fate of the safety net that's been helping Americans since the Great Depression. On Wednesday, President Obama will unveil his plan to reduce the deficit, presenting an alternative to the Republican 2012 budget from Congressman Paul Ryan. The president's plan would repeal the Bush tax cuts for the rich and cut defense spending. It would also cut Medicare, Medicaid, and reform Social Security. We don't know yet exactly how the president plans to do this. What does he mean by Social Security reform, for example? And we don't know how big those those spending cuts will be. So we'll find out soon enough on Wednesday, of course. But we do know what the Republicans want.
This budget deal that was cut, or the spending deal that was cut this week, is only the beginning. This is the first bite at the apple.
Republicans, of course, want to take another huge chunk out of that apple by attaching a new round of devastating cuts to any vote raising the nation's debt ceiling. Now, without that vote, the government will hit its credit limit on May 16th, with potentially disastrous effects to our economy.
Consequences of failing to raise the debt ceiling would be Armageddon-like in terms of the economy. And we do not need to play chicken with our economy.
Essentially, the Republicans are willing to hold the recovery hostage in exchange for more spending cuts, and much more importantly for them, more tax cuts for the top bracket. Now, the GOP seems to be willing to shred Medicare and Medicaid to make sure that top 2% get bigger tax breaks. The big question is, will the president let them? So far, presidential advisor David Plouffe seems to be focused on taking credit for spending cuts rather than fighting those cuts.
We cut spending, biggest annual spending cut in the history of the country. These were some tough cuts. The president came together with Republicans and Democrats on behalf of the country in December, led an effort to cut taxes, and now we've come together to cut spending.
Cutting taxes and cutting spending. It's curious to see a Democratic administration boasting about that when that's what Republicans usually run on. But the fight that Plouffe is referring to was just a warm-up for the title match. That's coming right now. How will the president position himself for that fight? Whatever he decides will likely define his presidency. Joining me now is Congressman Peter DeFazio, Democrat from Oregon, and a member of the Progressive Caucus. Congressman, first, are you encouraged or discouraged by how that undercard went, that first round?
Pretty discouraged. Remember, we wouldn't have a record deficit this year if in one vote in December we hadn't reduced the government's income by $400 billion when the president went along with extending all the Bush tax cuts. Then suddenly we have to, oh my God, we have a record deficit. Yeah, you reduce your income, you have a record deficit. Now Ryan proposes that we should reduce our income more and therefore we'll get to a more fiscally responsible condition. How? And even if the Ryan budget added up, he says, well, it wouldn't be balanced till 2040. He carefully leaves a lot of the Republican pet things aside, agriculture subsidies, paying people not to grow things. He's from an agriculture state. Instead, we'll hit at kids, the WIC program, food stamps, things like that. You know, all tax cuts are sacrosanct. There'll be a whole new raft of tax cuts here. No, I'm pretty discouraged at where we're going. And I guess what I'd say is, remember, this Republican class was substantially elected with a lot of help from folks on Wall Street, a lot of big money people through secretive giving and through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And the people on the front line, if they threaten the debt of the United States, are the people on Wall Street and are some of those big guys. And I'd suggest they better be picking up the phone and calling their friends here in Congress, the ones they just elected, to change things and tell them, well, don't mess with default for the United States of America.
Congressman, I appreciated your math in the beginning because that really puts it into perspective for the American people. You know, they are bragging about this $38.5 billion in spending cuts. That did hurt. That hurt a lot of people, right? But they added $400 billion. So that means they added about 10 times as much to the deficit as they helped with the spending cuts. Now, it's amazing to me that Washington seems to think that that's perfectly normal. So how do you turn that conversation around, Congressman? Because like we said, the next fight is much, much larger, and it's critical that the conversation be different the next time around. How do you in Congress turn it around?
Well, I advocated in January to my colleagues, Democratic caucus, I said we'll have 1 point of leverage this year. That's going to be the debate over extending the debt of the U.S. And we should say they don't get a single Democratic vote till they stop pretending that you can somehow achieve fiscal responsibility without revenues. You just can't do it. I mean, today, if we eliminated the entire government, all of the Defense Department, everything else the government does day to day, we would still have a deficit. So you can't pretend you're getting there with cuts, and you can't keep cutting income, which is also called cutting taxes. And somehow in their bizarre world, that's going to rectify the deficit.
Well, so it seems to me, again, here, obviously the White House is critical because what you're saying obviously makes sense. There's two sides to this equation. There's revenue and then there's spending, and it looks like we've got a massive problem with the revenue side of this equation, although Congressman Boehner keeps saying you don't. So are you sure the White House is going to be on your side? It looks like on Wednesday they are. It sounds like they're going to, go back to the Bush or take away the Bush tax cuts, I should say, for the top bracket. Are you encouraged by that? And are you sure that they're going to stay strong in that?
Well, that's a small step. Remember, the president did run on that, and he did cave on it in December. Now, whether he was blackmailed over the treaty with Russia, we'll never know. But he did cave just in December. This would be a quick turnaround. And it's got to be actually more, honestly, than just the top bracket tax cuts. We would have, if we allowed all the Bush tax cuts to expire, over 10 years, we would have cut the deficit in half. Now, that would have been a small increase on working families, a large increase on more wealthy folks, would have taken us back to Clinton-era tax rates when the economy boomed and we balanced the budget and had a surplus. We could cut the deficit in half if we just let them all expire. But we're headed the wrong way, I fear.
And look, as you see from that poll that we just put up, the American people are on your side. 81% say raise tax on millionaires. It's hard to imagine a better number in terms of politics. But you said something very interesting a little earlier on. You said that that's a moment of leverage for you, this whether we raise the debt ceiling or not. That's interesting because that's what the Republicans say too. Eric Cantor said the same thing. So is there going to be a lot of pressure on the president in this case from both sides?
Yeah, but it's time for him to call their bluff and to speak out more forcefully as we go into this debate. I mean, remember, they have a certain number of their new members, Tea Party folks, who've signed pledges not to vote to increase the debt of the United States, despite the fact that the 14th Amendment says, basically, thou shalt not question the debt of the United States in any place or time. They're going to do that. They're just saying they won't vote for it. So they're creating an impossible scenario. How many of those there are, I'm not sure, but I think they're going to need some Democratic votes to get past this, and I think we could have a point of leverage here, and they could maybe get real. You can't get to fiscal responsibility with numbers this big without revenues.
One last thing, Congressman. Is it realistic to expect Democrats in Congress to actually pressure a Democratic president? Because a lot of times, we've seen some hints of that, and then when push comes to shove, the Democrats pull back and say, well, it's a Democratic president, we got to do what he says. What's your sense of this time around? Is that going to be the same old thing, or is there going to be real pressure saying, no, we absolutely will not give votes if you go in the wrong direction?
Well, in my opinion, that's what the House did wrong in the last Congress, and in part why we lost is we never pushed back. No matter how wrong he was or off base he was, we never pushed back. There are a number of us in the caucus now are pushing back very hard on our leadership, and I'm just going to continue to do that. Who knows where they'll end up, but maybe we can take enough D's with us to make them uncomfortable and to make them stick with making the president act like a Democrat.
Well, since he is a Democratic president, you would hope that he would do that, but we'll see how that turns out. All right, Congressman DeFazio, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.